Oh, okay. So today, what we're gonna attempt to do, which we actually should do. The only thing is, usually I'm very against the whole smart. I'm not against the smartphones, but usually no. We're gonna actually utilize them this year because their sources and maybe better for the printouts. But if you want to look along, I think it's kedai to look along the sources, which you could probably pick them up on Safari.org. So if you wanted to actually look in, that probably you would probably gain from that a lot. It would be very interesting because what we're doing basically is we're going to track today a piece from the Gemara. We're going to see how something comes into the tour like that, and then it continues on into the Shulchan Aruch. Mechaber understands it, and then I wanted to also bring it to the Alter Rebbe Shulchan Aruch. I don't know if there is over here, where I couldn't locate it. And I think we could do that all in 45 minutes. I think we can get it done. Obviously, it's cooler if you're looking outside, and I mean if you're able to see it. I don't want to get too much buffer time between digging it up, so we'll see how fast. But yeah, that's the idea. Just a little more another preface on this that this is the Gemara, right? I'm happy to start from the beginning of the beginning of the beginning. The Gemara is based on the Mishnah. Rabbi Yehuda Nafsi wrote the Mishnah, and Rav Ashi and Ravina, they wrote the Gemara. The Gemara develops and opens up the Mishnah, different points that are embedded in the Mishnah. The Gemara develops it and opens it out. That is Teresh Shabbat Peh. Actually, Teresh Shabbat extends into everything. Kol Mashma Talmud Hasid Vasi Gasa Hasid L'Chadash. Anything that we're working on now in Torah, and because we're always just developing written Torah. There was a lot from the times of the Amoraim, and then following that period there was the Sfaraim, and then the Gaonim. And even going into the Rishonim, there was a lot of, I wouldn't call it, there's a lot of ambiguity in Gemara itself. Also, there's a lot of new streams of, the Rambam actually writes this clearly in his preface to the Mishnah Torah. He writes that there's a lot happening in Torah, and there was a lot of disparity within the communities. So there was a lot of message. There's a lot of ambiguity in the Gemara, not because the Gemara is vague, but because the people that were learning the Gemara then, like, they got the message, they got the memo right away. They understood the principle, they understood how to apply it. It was perfect then. But much later on, generations, they didn't have that capacity, so there was a lot of ambiguity, and that's why things were the ambiguity was discussed amongst the Rishonim, which we'll see today. A clear example of that. What is fine going into one of these things that would be understood in multiple ways. With that, so the Rambam is the great codifier. The Rambam made a sefer of Halacha, which is the Mishnah Torah, and it's also he organized it. There's not really so much of a direct relationship, between the structure of the Shulchan Aruch as we know it and the Rambam. Rambam has 14 Sfarim, the Yad. Where do we get our current Shulchan Aruch? That's from the Mechaber, good, but it's actually before Tzfas. It comes from the great tzaddik named the Baal HaTurim, Rabbi Yaakov Baal HaTurim, who took all of what is brought from all the Rishonim and before the Rishonim based in the Sfaraim, Sfaraim, all the way back, and he made what we know as the four columns. Each column, one column is Orach Chaim, which has to do with the things that are on a fixed schedule of Jewish life, either through the individual day or through the calendar year. And there's Yeridea, or all mitzvahs that are not fixed, that you can't predict when that will particularly happen. Kashrus is not something that happens at 5 or 6 o'clock. So that would go into your day. Nida is another example of something that's near there. Geirus, Nila, Shav Sabeda, Kibbutz Ve'im, all these mitzvahs, they're not necessarily going to happen. They don't have to happen at 6 o'clock. They can happen at 6 o'clock and 7 o'clock. Right? They're directly related to the calendar. So that's Yoredea. That's the second pillar. The third pillar is Even Ha'ezer. Even Ha'ezer is the third pillar. I think it's. I don't know about the order. It could be. It is actually the third pillar. The third or fourth. No, it is. It's the third. Yeah, it's the third. Even Ha'ezer, which is talking about marital related halacha.
Again, marital.
So if it has to do with who can a kohen get married to, this person, all that. What's the date of a ksuba? It's a lot of laws. Kiddushin, Gerushin, Alma, Chalitza, and so on and so forth. A lot of halacha. Finally, the fourth is Choshen Mishpat, which Choshen Mishpat deals with monetary halacha. Right? And this is the way that the Balaturim codified halacha. In these 4 pillars, within them there's a bunch of simanim. Siman is the title. Let's say in this specific, in the first tour, the Orach Chaim, there is 696 simanim. So the first siman will start off Hashkamas HaBoker, the morning, laws of the morning. The second siman will go on. I think the second siman will also be to Daim, how to speak as Kisei, how we conduct ourselves in the bathroom, saying Hashem's name, Shachar maybe goes into just tzitzis, tefillin, davening, these simanim, and they progress. Some laws will have 1 siman, some laws will have 30 siman. Broken.
What was that word?
Siman literally means a sign.
Sign.
Yeah, sign. And then each sign, each siman has a sif. So you could have a siman with 5 sifim, or you could have sif is like a little a sub. You could call it a class. Siman maybe would be called a class or a division and then you have a sub. Within that division, you have a subdivision, which is a little even more particular, broken down. It's actually very, very, very organized, and that itself is a big study because, as we'll see, the siman structure does not change from the Balatur. Once we have Shulchan Aruch, we have 4 columns with all of these simanim. That remains the same. The Mechaber from Tzvas stays true, the same. He does the same amount of the 4 Turim. All the same amount of simanim. He'll have 697 simanim on Orach Chaim, and the same also for the following columns. What does vary is the amount of sifim, of mini halach. Why? And that actually becomes it's very interesting how each one does it and goes about, presenting halacha in the way that they see most fitting for their generation, for their people, for the audience that they're trying to communicate halacha to. So that's the Balaturim. The Balaturim then. Sorry, any?
You spoke at a certain stage of who decided the rules of Chalitza, an example.
Mm-hmm.
This was in what area? In what year, roughly?
The Balaturim?
Balaturim was 1200, the end of 1200, beginning.
Yeah. Balaturim?
Yes.
You can check. I thought it was a little later. I thought it was in the 1450s.
Nevertheless,
I think that the Balaturim was a little later on because the Balaturim bases it on a lot on the Rambam and the Rif and the Russian. I believe they were a little later than that. And following the Balaturim comes the Balaturim. Wow, I'm gonna shit. Yeah. Where is it here?
Why?
Going to the mid 1300s. Okay, but.
Why am I asking? For the Halitza, up to that time, they did used to do it.
Okay.
From then on, it was stopped.
Evil.
Halitza,
So it's still there.
you don't do it anymore.
Sure.
And we, a widow,
It's 100%.
maybe among Chabad. Usually it's not used anymore.
So it's of course they're not it's a deraisa. How is she married another guy?
Okay, let's say another issue. Being married with two wives.
That's a regulation, but I understand. I understand
No,
the topic.
what is my point? My point is some rules change with time. They're not fixed forever. It's according to what's going on the ground.
Okay.
But after Yosef Karo, to what I understand, nothing was changed.
I mean, to a certain degree, but also there's the Machaber. We'll see in a second. I'll explain that. So now the on the tour, if you see the this is the body of the tour of the text of the tour, and if you see there's a pirush on the side, right? And one of them is the Bach, the Bayis Chadash, but the other one is Bet Yosef. Bet Yosef, you know, if you're familiar with Chalak Bet Yosef, it's the one of the Hashkafas, right? Svardi Hashkafa, and the Bet Yosef, as he does in the Kesef Mishnah on the Rambam, because they're not written with sources. The Torah doesn't write it with sources. Sometimes he does. The Isa Gemara, as it's born in Gemara, the Beis Yosef does multiple things, but chiefly he brings the sources. This comes from the Gemara in, you know, if we're using the example of what we're dealing with, comes from the Gemara in Brachas, chapter 12. I'm sorry, page 12 on the base, on the top. Maybe you'll quote a bit of it and point out if there's nuance of where the Torah derives the halacha from. He adds, it's very, very interesting, as we'll see. We'll see some of the points hopefully today. We can go into it. That's the Beis Yosef does. The Beis Yosef then, based on his understanding of the Torah and also on his understanding of how the Torah came to his conclusions, he wrote another Shulchan Aruch. He wrote the Shulchan Aruch. This is not the Shulchan Aruch. This is called the Arba Torah. This is the Torah. He wrote the Shulchan Aruch, and he's known as the Mechaber. Mechaber means the author. He's the author. The Mechaber, meaning the Bet Yosef on the Torah, is the Mechaber of the Shulchan Aruch. And the Mechaber has, he writes the Shulchan Aruch, and you'll see there's a stark difference between the way in which the Mechaber presents the halacha and the Torah presents the halacha. The Torah is actually very lengthy. See, in our specific case, it's jarring. That's what you see. It's very lengthy, relatively lengthy. You see the Torah, we're going to discuss our halacha of Hamelech HaMishpat and Hakelach HaKadosh, Hamelech HaKadosh, and Hakelach HaKadosh, which we switch from usually the rest of the year. And you'll see how what the Torah will present, like a page. The Mechaber gets it done in 3.5 lines. So it's a different type of approach.
This covers the same ground as the Shulchan Aruch. This is still, in terms of Shulchan Aruch, and I'm just using that term almost generically now. This is sort of Shulchan Aruch.
This is the base, the source, the base, the foundation. But when you say the Shulchan Aruch, this would be the Shulchan Aruch. Then the Shulchan Aruch Harav.
But the Shulchan Aruch has the Torah.
The Shulchan Aruch does not.
does not.
No, no.
What did he ask?
The Shulchan Aruch does not have a tour. Sometimes they'll have, nowadays, like Yisroel prints an edition that has the tour and the basic and the Shulchan Aruch together. They'll say tour, Shulchan Aruch, and then you have half of it. It only obviously doesn't cover as many simanim because it's all stacked in one book. So it'll go through like, I don't know, instead of like this is going through 200 simanim, that will go through like 40 simanim. You know, depends how obviously which simanim, since simanim are much longer. So from the Beis Yosef, then it comes into the Shulchan Aruch, Mechaber. Also, again, the amount of simanim are the same, but the seifim change, not so drastically, but relatively. Certainly, what's drastic is the amount of text devoted to present the halacha. Shulchan Aruch, the Torah gives a lot of context, a lot of this is what's happening. It's like kind of like, you know, I could tell somebody, go get the coffee. Well, you're gonna go, you're gonna leave, you're gonna come out to Cacao, you're gonna go to Cacao, make a right, you'll see a nice store, go in, there's a waiter, say good morning to her, you know, like, you're gonna go and then offer the coffee. It's a little bit, well, you know, that's very general. It's also, it's my own, coming from my own opinion, but just one observation of it. It's different like that. Obviously, there's much more depth to the difference, but you can right away see that there's a lot more. The Alter Rebbe, who I'm jumping right to the Alter Rebbe. Sorry.
Just
Sure.
I have been once told that whoever comes first in time has got more relationship with the Nekor.
Yeah.
Rambam comes before Baraturim.
Yeah.
But we don't take usually Rambam as a reference.
Very good. Hold on 1 second. Very good. We'll go on that point. So, it's known that the Torah based his opinions off of 3 major poskim. I'm pretty sure that I'm remembering this correctly. It's the Rif, the Rosh, and the Rambam. These are the 3 major Rishonim that the Torah bases his opinions off of. And I think usually it's like 2 or 3. 2 or 3, like maybe the majority of the. Now again, the Torah is the Rosh's son. Actually, it's the Eliyah Rosh, right? The Torah is the son of Rabbi Asher. A lot of the Beis Yosef, I don't want to go into the details yet. A lot of the Beis Yosef is the Beis Yosef says in the Rit. The Beis Yosef brings this discussion. What? Sorry, first thing.
Yaakov Meir, Jackie.
What Jackie just said is how does the Torah really come to his conclusions? And that's actually what the Beis Yosef explores a lot of. And on the side of the text, he's like, this is the source of the text of the Rif. This is what the Rosh says, and yeah, it's clear everybody holds this.
The Rif comes before the Rosh.
The Rif goes before the Rosh, but generally again, I'm not going to go into the discussion between the Rishonim, but that is really what the Mechaber endeavors, at least in the Beis Yosef, giving a whole approach. The Torah doesn't do that. The Torah just says, this is what's happening, and this is how you ought to conduct yourself. And the Beis Yosef dissects it, presents a lot of background. Based on that, presents a halacha that's much more concise and sometimes differs from the Torah based on his understanding of how the Torah dissected it. He'll say, Nirali, maybe it appears to me that the halacha should be a little bit different, right? Or different, right? Now, in the Torah, you'll notice, in the Shulchan Aruch, you'll notice that there is many texts, and then there's this Rashi text on the bottom. The Rashi text is the Ramah, Rameir Israelis. Rabbi Israelis. The Ramah. The Ramah is with the Mechaber is the grand posek of basically up till now, for all Sephardi halacha, all follows the Beis Yosef. Then that is to what the Ramah is for Ashkenazi. For an Ashkenazi, we follow the Ramah. Now they don't always argue. Actually, in most cases, they don't. But where they do, where there is a difference, which a lot of times it comes with halacha, there's some major ones like Bishul Yisroel is a very, very
Pesach.
Pesach, exactly, yeah. So there are some very key ones, which if you're a Sephardi, you follow Beit Yosef, and that's it's clear. You have rice, I guess, right? Rice is one. If you follow the Ramah says we don't have rice. That's another thing you'll see over there. Now, you'll see there's Mechaber, Ramah, and then on the side you have the Shach and Taz, right? You have Pirushim that kind of obviously always, what do we do if the Ramah holds this or that? And there's also ambiguity within that because the halacha is developing, the world is developing. Not everything's covered in the Shulchan Aruch, so there's other cases and so on. And that's how really Shulchan Aruch halacha is constantly getting codified, but getting blasted open, especially nowadays. Let's say anything about AI or whatever, who knows what. So there's a bunch of Achrayim that are coming together. People now, they're dealing with these halachic issues, and then again, it gets opened up. Fine. But specifically, we're going to focus on the Alter Rebbe. The Alter Rebbe, in the beginning of the Alter Rebbe, Alter Rebbe Shulchan Aruch, the children of the Alter Rebbe, they say how one ought to learn. And there's this whole system, even for a balabas, not even for a lamdan, for a balabas. Somebody who has a day job, he ought to learn the Gemara and the Rishonim, and then look at the Torah and the Beis Yosef, and then the Machaber with the commentaries on the Machaber, Shachtaz, or the Smeh, depends on which section of Shulchan Aruch, and then you learn the Alter Rebbe. And honestly, it's a pretty good idea because then you could really appreciate how the Alter Rebbe is, what he's doing. Because there's no shortage of material to jot down on the paper, but it's how you could present it in a way that, number one, you're really covering you're giving a whole picture, you're giving taste, you're giving depth and taste to the halacha, but you're also not losing the crowd by it being so scattered. So the Alter Rebbe really strategically takes from, and you'll see it actually comes back a little bit more towards the Torah Alter Rebbe. The Alter Rebbe, when I remember I said there's Sifim, so the Mechaber has the Sifim were those subcategories. The Mechaber is pretty much on line with the Sifim of the Torah. The Alter Rebbe could be drastically different. In the Alter Rebbe, you could have a siman in Shulchan Aruch that has 11 halachas. Alter Rebbe can make 45, 60, 50, lot. So it's clear once you're learning the Alter Rebbe, because the Alter Rebbe, we even have an example in our case. Okay, so let's go right now. That's the general, and we'll see. In the Gemara, there's a statement by Rav. Rav says, you are, the whole year somebody says, in the third bracha, somebody says, Akel HaKadosh. 10 days between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, say HaMelech HaKadosh and HaMelech HaMishpat. Right? Rabbi Elazar, the Gemara continues and says, Rabbi Elazar says that if somebody said Akel HaKadosh and HaMelech HaMishpat, Yatsa. There's an argument over here. There's a dispute between Rav and Rabbi Elazar. Rav seems to be saying you got to make this change in the 10 days. Are you following? Yeah. If you have to make this change, and Rabbi Elazar in the Gemara says, Yatsa, even if you said what you regularly did, Yatsa. Okay. There's ambiguity over there. What's the ambiguity?
Why ambiguity? At the end, it's the majority who decides.
What's the ambiguity? First of all, there is obviously the ambiguity of what's the halacha. But there's another ambiguity. There's a double ambiguity. That's who the halacha is like. Let's not talk about. The ambiguity is a toggle of lechatchila and b'diavad. is this dispute happening in like, this is what you ought to do in an ideal, or is it in the aftermath, right? If they're, right, and it depends on, like, if somebody's being super mahmir or super mako, like, based on that. So let's phrase it. Let's say this argument is happening in l'chatchila. Rav is saying, ideally, in these days, you have to make this change and say Melech HaKadosh. I'm just to keep the words shorter. I'm going to talk about the third Rav. But these days, you have to say Melech HaKadosh. Rabbi Eliezer says, no need to say Melech HaKadosh at all. Hakel HaKadosh. L'chatchila, ideally, even if you're starting to daven, don't even bother saying Melech HaKadosh. That would be if we understand this machlekes to be happening in l'chatchila. What if somebody then made the mistake and said Melech HaKadosh, instead of Hakel HaKadosh? Then maybe even Rav would agree that it's fine. They're arguing only in an ideal form. In the Gemara, you could understand it that way. Or you could say that they're arguing even with the Eved, that everybody says, ideally, say Melech HaKadosh.
So what does he say that you go back?
Huh? One second, we're not talking about going back, yeah? Let's go. Everybody says, L'chatchila, say Melech HaKadosh. The best thing to do. Even Rabbi Eliezer. Where they arguing is with the Eved. Rav says, it's so important to say Melech HaKadosh that if you did not say Melech HaKadosh, you got to go back. Rabbi Eliezer says, no. B'di'evet, yatzah. Right? There's two different ways of looking at this machlekes, and based on that, without knowing what we know, according to the first way of looking at it, you would not need to go back. B'di'evet, you said it. Right there. So if you understand the second way, and we hold like Rav, which we actually do, sneak peek, then all of a sudden somebody has breakfast waiting for him, hot, and he's daven Shmoneh Esrei, but he remembered that he said Hakel HaKadosh, or he's not even sure, he's in doubt. Sorry, you gotta go back. Gotta go down again.
If you're in doubt, you go back.
Huh?
If you're in doubt,
Then you go back to this. That's another topic, another discussion, which is
Okay.
Further on in the Sinman about if you're used to something. Great. That is what the Torah presents. And the Torah brings the Gemara, and right away he says, from the language of Yatzah, of Rabbi Eliezer, he was Yatzah. He understands the machlekes to be a b'di'evet machlekes. Why? Because he's saying, it's like you're Yatzah. I said, if you shook the lulav, and you shook it like this, you're a Yatzah. So when you're saying that, obviously the language already implies that it's not the best thing to do, but you're a Yatzah. And then whoever's arguing with him, in this case Rav, who doesn't say Yatzah, would be saying, no, go back and do it again. That's the position. One second. That's the position that the Torah takes. Now, you already see it. The Beis Yosef already says lo pashut. There are other Rishonim that actually a minority, definitely a minority, but there are other Rishonim that understand the Gemara itself to be that this machlekes is in a case of l'chatchila. However, l'chatchila, they're arguing l'chatchila, but everybody would say no problem. But the Beis Yosef also brings, but the Rambam, the Rosh, and the Rif all understand it, that it's talking about b'di'evet, and that's why they say if somebody makes a mistake, they need to go back.
Also Beis Yosef said, go back.
So now the Beis Yosef,
B'di'evet.
yeah. So the Beis Yosef, in this case, there's no argument between the Beis Yosef and the Torah. The Beis Yosef just says what the Torah says. The Torah starts off the Halacha. Again, I'm not going to go in. Where are we on time?
Yes.
20.
We should.
Right. Well, very good. Okay, so maybe it's
Finish at 11.
Yeah. We're going to be fine. We're going to be just fine. So the Beis Yosef Look, if you tour, again, it sounds like we're going to have enough time to even look inside and just see the actual text, not the text. But the Beis Yosef says, the Torah starts off and says, on the evening of Rosh Hashanah, one comes to shul, and he does this, the Shlichus did, and he Shlichus David with Birchas Krishma, and Shema, and Shemona Esrei. And in Shemona Esrei, he says 3 brachas before, 3 brachas after. The middle one is the bracha of Rosh Hashanah, and so on. And then he says, and once you're going to get to Melech HaKadosh, he said, but then he brings from the Gemara. The Gemara says, it's part of the Gemara that in the 10 days between, so it's a lot of text. Fine. Then the Beis Yosef says right away, in these days, somebody has to say Melech HaKadosh and Melech HaMishpat. If not, he has to go back. That's it. So,
I'm embarrassed to ask because I don't remember, but in the Rosh Hashanah exclusive Siddur, is this even a choice?
In a Rosh Hashanah exclusive Siddur, then it's a good question because it doesn't even have an option for Akel HaKadosh. And then that's it. But that's a discussion in a different sif where it relates where there's also it's actually borders into the discussion on Mashma Ruach and where to get them about how long it takes somebody to get used to saying something. Right? There's actual halacha itself that says that if somebody says 90 times, Baruch Atah Hashem HaMelech HaKadosh, because 90 times is like the amount of times a month. A month in by Mashma Ruach and where to get them says for a month, if you're in doubt, you got to go back. After a month, then already your mouth gets used to saying it. So what happens if somebody said 90 times, HaMelech HaKadosh, HaMelech HaMishpah, HaMelech HaKadosh, HaMelech HaKadosh, HaMelech HaKadosh. So there's no, the Alter Rebbe brings, it's not, it doesn't work because when he's saying it 90 times, he's saying Baruch Atah Hashem, HaMelech, you're not saying Hashem, you can't say Hashem's name 90 times with a Vatala. So when he's getting them in Shmonesri, when he says Baruch Atah Hashem with Hashem's actual name, he's going to go back to what he's used to, and he probably said Akel HaKadosh if he wasn't consciously present while he was out. So anyway, there is a discussion. That's just the bottom line, but I'm sure there's a lot. There's the source and how people understand the differences. Okay.
Excuse me. On Rosh Mishpat, there are also many differences.
Sure.
But before, it can make a big difference to the life of a person.
Sure.
So, if you take Shulchan Aruch and Shulchan Aruch, it affects heavily
Sure.
on one person.
High front, you own money, I don't know. There's a lot of that. By the Zakin Mamre, it says, the Rambam brings this. Zakin Mamre is somebody that goes against Beis Din, right? Goes against Beis Din. Beis Din said, you have to, this is the ruling, and he says no. No. But they warn him, but he continues, he maintains his position. It says the whole din only applies with somebody if he's doing something that pertains to death. It's like, okay, whatever, it's not so many mitzvahs. But then, the Rambam, I think it's the Rambam, the Rambam says, actually, I think it shows that every single mitzvah pertains to death. If it's Malchus, and this and that, I'm not going to quote it all, but he shows how every single mitzvah could end up leading to something that is Israel mitzvah. The only thing that there's like lulav, it comes out like the only thing that doesn't end up being is lulav. Everything else has, maybe it's not directly, but 1, 2, 3, 4 steps, and already it's leading to something that could be death. So that's why. And then there's one more mitzvah that's not related to death, but it's exerts the cost of a tefillin. If he argues on tefillin, second tefillin. So, I mean, for sure, halacha, there's no question that even, and that's what David HaMelech said, it's already going to us to say this, but David HaMelech said that it's amazing how one little diktok, one small chupchi in Torah that's changes the whole world. So he, and Chassidus brings that it actually has to do with all the light that flows into this world. But what you're bringing up, Jackie, is that, yeah, one different of a girsa in the Torah, there was a vav, was it with a vav or was it without a vav? Is it a conjunction or is it a separate? How do we understand it? Different, blah, blah, blah. Guy owes $2 million, doesn't owe $2 million. Things have been, well, I mean, I'm just using that as a hyperbole, whatever. Like,
You get what you mean.
okay, so, but you see, like, we have these things really play into life. Sorry, I want to go through the. I think we will actually have time either to go through the text or to schmooze a little bit about halacha. The Alter Rebbe, the whole discussion. So the Alter Rebbe sees what goes with the Torah, goes with the base system. He comes back to the Torah a little bit. In a little bit of, it's not as direct. I mean, it's not as direct. It's not as like, I wouldn't say focused, but like,
On the same track.
I want to bring the example from the Torah. But inside, the Torah says, the Chaver says, I don't even have the Alter Rebbe with me. It's going to be challenging. Okay. Okay. Rosh Hashanah. בעשרת ימי תשובה אומרים אומר המלך הקדש, המלך המשפט. אם טוב, שהוא מסופק, אם הוא. Okay? If he, the whole year, you have to say the whole, no, it doesn't even take the whole year. He says, in the Aseret Yemei Tshuva, you say HaMelech HaKadosh, HaMelech HaMishpat. That's it. Everything we're discussing, the Torah, really long page. One line. That's the bottom line. Bottom line is what you're going to do. The Alter Rebbe goes back more. It's not like so curt. It's more his whole year. Somebody would say in the third Benedict, in the third blessing, and in the 11th blessing, and so on. I'm not going to. I don't remember it about that. But that's, and the Alter Rebbe added one thing that's very, very key, which even the Torah doesn't add. Is the why. Why are we saying why do we say that? So the Alter Rebbe brings from Rashi in the Gemara, right, going back to the Machlekes with Rav and Rabbi Eliezer. It says Mal. It says the Gemara, the source itself is Rav said that the whole year you say that in the Aseret Yemei Tshuva you say HaMelech HaKadosh, and Rashi comments over there because in the 10 days kingship is what reigns in the world. God's kingship is what's most. The whole rest of the year, tzedakah, God's kindness and charity, is reigning. That shefa, that sustenance from Hashem, that's shining to the world is more of tzedakah of righteousness. And these days, it's a time of kingship. So thus, in our davening, which is obviously super precise, we're going to be mechavan. We're going to align it to what's happening, what's going on.
Because you speak of tzedakah, in the 10 days, the Yemei Teshuvah, the tzedakah you make pertains to the previous year or to the next year?
I don't know, but the bottom line is Chabad Rechavia write a big check for Rabbi Goldberg, Rabbi the great work that they do.
It pertains to the previous year. It makes a difference. Let's say your master is 99.
It's a good question. It's a good question. The eager is to write the check. God will figure it out who to apply it to. If it applies to both, but it should be a big check. Okay, so the Alter Rebbe number one brings that in. That's a significant thing, which again, it's part of the whole the Alter Rebbe's thing. He wants to give context. He also very focused on giving time. Like we're saying, we're so focused. Oh, I thought the 5th time I'm doubting Shemesher because I forgot it 4 times already. But what am I doing? Why am I doing it? So it helps to get involved. Helps to really follow halachas when you know what's going on. Not, this is what I got to do. It's not saying that the Chaver is not focused on the Talmud. For maybe he's just like, of course you learned the Gemara. Like you know what Rashi says. It's like this is the savior of the the bottom line. So it's not nobody's chas v'shalom canceling out anybody. It's tzaddikim that are developing Torah and bringing it to the world. So we could have Geula already. That's what's happening with it. And in that line, when we learn the halacha, and you just appreciate how it's all coming together and how the tzaddikim are working together. You can get in, you can get lost in it, you can get found in it. So the Alter Rebbe adds that. The Alter Rebbe also discusses something which becomes actually a lengthier discussion. What is, and this is where we're speaking about the Alter Rebbe adding sifim. Until now, the Tur and the Chaver, they see the third bracha and the 11th bracha in the exact same light. Right? They're in the exact same light. The whole discussion of the Gemara, is it the Chabchila, is it the Diavad, would one need to go back, would one not need to go back? It's a blanket statement. If it applies in the third blessing, it applies in the 11th blessing. Okay? And the Tur brings the discussion. The Chaver says, bottom line, this is what we hold like, and you have to say it. If somebody made a mistake and went back and didn't remember fast enough, you gotta go back. Gotta repeat it. Alter says, no, it's not so simple. Because there's a sub-opinion that there's a difference between the third bracha and the 11th bracha. Why? Because in the 11th bracha, you have a melech. You already have a melech. You have the melech oyev stakval mishpat.
So you said before a melech.
You sort of said it in 11. No, in the 11th bracha it says melech oyev stakval mishpat. You said melech. It's not like you didn't say melech at all. You said akel, hakadosh, and you say melech. Here you said melech. So you already did say something, and there's an opinion that says, you know what? Listen, fine, you didn't say melech mishpat. Then it's true. Lechatchila. You should say Melech Mishpat, but maybe in the case of over here, it would be okay, and you wouldn't need to go back. Alter Rebbe says it brings that.
Makes sense.
Okay. Well, there are opinions though, so that itself is ambiguity. And there's some opinions that say no, Dafka Melech Mishpat. There has to be no. You can't say it's Dafka. Dafka, if you're coming into the in the court case. And you have to make a din. You bring in Lefnim Yishuris a din right now. Whoa! Let's focus on the psak. What's the psak? We have a psak. Afterwards, let's go ask for leniency. Let's ask for tzedakah, for compassion. But if we're trying to get to the bottom line over here, there's don't introduce compassion. You're shaking the structure of we're trying to figure out who's right or wrong. You're asking for compassion. So tzedakah could be a thing that actually is, and there's opinion about that says that. There's opinion that says no. You said how many okay. It's maybe ideal to not say tzedakah, but you said I'm not punishment, and therefore it's good. Why? What comes out? Going on this, what does the Alter Rebbe say? It comes out, even though now we're looking at the third bracha, it seems like the third bracha is very serious. Mm-hmm. The 11th bracha has grounds for more leniency because it's lesser. The Alter Rebbe says, because of this, it comes out that the 11th bracha is more stringent and the third bracha is more lenient. Why? Because of Safek brachas l'hakel. Right? If you know for sure that you made a mistake, then you must go back. And you go back. In the 11th bracha, you made a mistake, but you're not for sure, you didn't, maybe there's an opinion that says that you didn't make a mistake. So if you go back, now maybe you made a bracha levatala. Mm-hmm. In the third, you didn't make a bracha levatala, for sure not. Everybody said, you didn't say do it correctly, start over again, no problem. Black and white. The 11th bracha is not so simple anymore. There's an opinion that says you are okay. You can't just go back and start saying Hashem's name like that. So the Alter Rebbe says, because of that, don't go back. Finish davening. But do the right thing and daven Shemona Esrei again.
Excuse
Do
me.
the right thing. Let's say tefillas nidava.
If there is a doubt
Yeah.
and you go back, you make 19 brachas levatol.
No. There's a very good question. Alter Rebbe says that it's called a tefillas nidava. When you daven a whole, you're allowed to. In Shulchan Aruch, it's one Shulchan Aruch. You're allowed to daven as many daven. You're not allowed to daven a tefillas nidava.
And the those.
Totally, you're giving a gift, just like it says it in I'm not sure the source in the Gemara. There's an opinion, a quote from Rabbi Yochanan that says, "Halavai yisbal al kol halavai, somebody should be davening the entire day, and it's perfectly acceptable to daven a tefillas nidava. However, even in nidava, there's a caveat. In nidava, usually you have to be mechadish something. You have to be mechadish something. You can't just daven the 19 blessings."
Changing one word.
No, maybe in Shomer Tefillah you add you're machadish something in your doing. You're davening for my good mate final shidduch Ritz Hashem.
To my daughters.
The daughter, you're davening final shidduch. Because of mamash or for a chayla that shouldn't be whatever it is. You're machadish something in the tefillah. That's how it goes. If you want to daven it, if you today wanted to daven it to us, that's how you have to do it. Just like Jackie said, I'm not feeling without it. No, this is how it works. To listen to daven, you add something, you can do it. The Alter Rebbe says, in this case though, which is an interesting thing for Halacha, in this case, when you're davening, 19, when you're davening, kind of repeating davening, because of a suffix, because there was a doubt over here and you weren't allowed to go back. So that's propelling you to daven again. In that case, when you daven your tefillas nidava, you don't have to be mechadish.
You don't?
You do not have to be mechadish something.
Who said this?
The Alter Rebbe says
You don't have to mechadish.
you don't have to be mechadish. If the reason that you're davening a tefillah nidava is because of such a scenario,
You don't have to.
no, you do. Typically you do. But if your tefillah nidava is happening as a result of this person forgetting the 11th bracha, not doing it correctly, and he's going back to daven, so it's like it's pulling from this doubt that he's not allowed to go back to because it's suffers brother lahakal, but it's enough of a power to daven a new davening and tefillah nidava without having to be mechadish something. This is what the Alter Rebbe brings, and you already see how a simon of the Mechaber that could be 2, 3, 4 halachas. Alter Rebbe, it just the Alter Rebbe develops it, and it becomes like a. You have also the language of the way that Alter Rebbe is so strategically putting things in, giving you context, giving you background understanding, giving you two opinions, explaining to like there's one opinion, this is because itself is lahafil, go back. But when you're davening your tefillah nidava, you don't have to be mechaber. A lot is going on that in the mechaber and in the term mechaber it wasn't spoken about. Why wasn't it spoken about? It's a good question. Now itself could you go and dig. Maybe it's because this dispute came up after the mechaber. Maybe it's a dispute in the pirush on the mechaber where they're discussing. Hey, maybe there's a difference between the third blessing and the 11th blessing based on the Gemara. There's what we're touching right now is mamish the skeleton of this discussion. But just to really bring out how something comes from the Gemara, the Torah brings it. The mechaber then takes it, gives it bottom line. The Alter Rebbe keeps a very bottom line approach, but still gives you I guess maybe a wider picture, maybe something that somebody was learning the mechaber you take for granted knew already or understood himself how to deduce, but the Alter Rebbe gives it and presents it really that a very like a novice, somebody that's just starting to learn halacha, could really get a very rich and a very advanced picture of the halachic discussion.
I bring you what happened to me. I
Time to rough everybody. Now we're open up for questions or
free stuff.
I'm gonna make it less emotional over here. NACHLAOT. You can call it up and say, am I allowed to eat? I'm here from the States. Can I go to this restaurant? And the Rav's going to tell you, you can't go to that restaurant, that's crazy, say whatever. Wow, that's a $2 in the hair, don't go there. But maybe it's a little too hard. The regular person he's coming in. So he goes another, it's Jewish, it's big, it's another, right? So, okay, you have it. What's the first rabbi base? He goes, one opinion. This is the way he sees halacha. So there's a whole discussion about going to another base than after you already got a psak from a base. That's why I don't really understand. Like if you already got a psak, I don't want to go into the details because we're already after the 11, so I don't want to go into the details of your case. But number one, that's an interesting topic over here is why after you already got a ruling, you went to another. You have to. After you got your ruling
from the first rabbi?
Yeah, there's nobody's chas v'shalom saying there's anything wrong with it. Psak from the base. That if you went to, there's not everybody's Lubavitch. Not everybody goes there. There's people that so many different bases.
He's like the owner of Lubavitch. He's well known for being one of the best.
I know. The Bezdin, going to a Bezdin after a Bezdin is a little bit like whatever, and especially in money matters where it's like we settle this. Right?
Yeah.
So that I don't know. I'm sure there's a lot of details of the things, but there's the idea. There's number one. Number two, you have a lot. You have like we said. There is differences and nuances. We learn about it. It's gishmak, but when it comes and plays out in people's life, there's a lot of differences.
Yeah.
And there is. We don't for the Alter Rebbe could necessarily. I don't know. I'm a beginner myself. I'm not. To understand why the details of your case, why the first go on.
It was a big story.
So there's a lot of details. Unfortunately, it's a normal thing. I'm sure it happens to people all the time. And my first question is just to understand as well, if they got one psak, why? But I guess it happens also. People get sued, get sued and then re-sued and then again sued. I don't have enough experience. Sued.
I understand.
No,
I think
you asked the same thing in court.
Once about it in toilet, this did.
I know, but in court also sometimes people
are different.
I'm saying, but the same thing probably guys like, I'm not happy with that.
Can you go on?
I'm going to cry.
Can you go a second time?
That's a whole. That itself is a whole. But that again, that has nothing to do with mechaber or alter rebbe. That has to do with what's the din about a din that's after a din.
Exactly.
Again, but there's a lot of factors. In halacha, it's a world, and you could find one point. We could analyze this for another 10 minutes and find 6 other points that are actually very critical, and then probably the more details that you'd share could also be like, oh wow, and then we just start debating it, and we probably wouldn't, we'd probably just get into it and we'd probably not come to too many conclusions, but we'd explore it, and ultimately that's the power of a Rav, and you trust, and hopefully we hope that for all Yidden, it works out. And obviously it's tough when there's 2 Yidden that are in the Ninter together. And hopefully, anyway.
It was very interesting.
Baruch Hashem, for me too. It's very exciting. I don't think we're doing next week, but we're going to possibly do the following week.
No,
Yom Kippur, 2 weeks. 2 weeks.
Next week is 2 weeks. So.
Yeah, maybe we'll do something on Yom Kippur, a little also, something similar. And if you have any requests or comments or things, feel free to bring it to me or to Rabbi Levi. I do think we should make a little group, a WhatsApp group. This way, if I prepare, I'll just jot down the links. So even during the class, we can, if I'm opening up a Gemara, we'll be right there at the source, so you should get that. So far it comes up, we can read inside, we could all explain. Okay. Time for bracha.